Free agency begins tomorrow. There's something that I really like about the current layout of the Texans in the short term. In the long term, though, let's get into what they're doing. Let's grade the moves. Go inside the locker room. It's time.
Yeah.
We'll do it live.
Yeah. It's the locker room on YouTube. You know what it is. Let's get it. Hey. Locker room. Yeah, we in the locker room. Texas talk. Yeah, you know what we about to do. Localize. Every angle's what we really do. We the source. We the pulse of the city too. Landlocked. Got the game in the headlock. Localize every time.
All right. Center market already looking pretty interesting for the Texans. It is the locker room, number one source for Texans digital content. We are getting ready for free agency tomorrow, which will be capped off by another visit to Spanky's this Friday. We will discuss everything that's gone on. Myself, Cody Stoots, SNL, which you can watch here Monday through Friday at 4 o'clock. We'll talk about everything going on. There will be new Texans. There will be a different outlook, and we'll be transitioning into draft mode with a better grasp of what the roster will look like, what they will and will not need. Might actually do our first SNL mock draft as well. Don't threaten us with a good time. Homemade dough, homemade sauce, Spankies. We want to see you there. And we know that y'all will show out per the use. So let's get into the things that the Texans have done. And the one thing that I like about the layout of this in the short term. And in the short term, the layout. And the reason why in this process of the offseason, like me and Stoots, we go to the combine. We talk about the draft. We talk about prospects, and then we basically press pause on that, and we transition into free agency, and then we go all in draft mode for a month and a half. The beauty of it is in every phase, your roster kind of shapes up more and more, and you get a decent grasp of what things can be. If I was looking at the Texans right now, and I was saying what I like most about the Texans' potential heading into free agency and the draft, I think there's really, really, really good potential to kind of swing for the fences and not have any like dire needs. Now, there's definitely needs. Like I'm sure you look at the depth chart right now and you say, how the hell is this? How the hell can you start this guy? Which is something that we'll get into. Or you say, well, you know, you need to get better here, which I agree. I agree with. But there's also that they have a I'm putting up the Trent Brown thing there. They have a roster where they do have guys and they can kind of swing for the fences. And by swing for the fences, I mean you don't have like a dire need. So if you're able to get high upside guys at positions that maybe aren't in the top 3 of what you, I, or anyone else believes they need, then I think that's what's going to have the biggest impact on their football team. Now, when it comes to free agency, I think this kind of needs to be made clear because we always hear, and you'll hear some talking heads go on the air or do whatever, or even fans, and you'll hear, well, they didn't make a big splash, they didn't spend a lot of money, they didn't. They shopped in the bargain bin. The reality is most teams shop in the bargain bin. Most elite teams shop in the bargain bin. The teams that you see the most active in free agency are typically the teams that have quarterbacks on rookie contracts. Now, those days are gone for the Texans. And the days of them signing like a Daniil Hunter and then spending a lot of money otherwise, they're kind of gone when it comes to free agency. If you just look at the names, like I saw a couple of lists and a couple of reports about Alec Pierce. And the list was teams expected to be in on Alec Pierce. Washington, Jaden Daniels, rookie contract. Tennessee, Cam Ward, rookie contract. Las Vegas, they're going to have Mendoza, rookie contract, I think $150 million in cap space. And there was another team that was on a rookie contract. So big splashes, they don't always equal success. You can see the Titans a couple of years ago during their spending spree. and some of the other squads. And they're a lot less likely as you get deeper into the rookie contract of the QB like CJ Stroud, and you're paying other guys. So like the Linderbaums and stuff like that, that's not going to happen here. Ever so often, there'll be a team that's in that top tier, has championship aspirations in the next year, and they'll make a big swing, but that's usually when they're like a player away. The Texans aren't one player away in this free agent class. Now, there are some guys that you could say, okay, well, if they get this guy, then they're going to take it to the next level. But in this free agent class, typically really, really good players don't hit the market. Texans take that to the next level, which we'll get to in a sec. But typically the really, really good players, they don't even hit the market. And that's why the NFL is so great, because there is parity, but there's also familiarity with your players. So that's the one thing I like about the Texans is they have at least filled out a roster, and they have potential to kind of swing for the fences. Let's go to the chat real quick.
Swarm.
It is the day before free agency. Hope you join us at Spanky's this Friday. Logan Taylor says, I think he means, what do you feel Aziz's extension be, 1 or 2 year? I don't know. I mean, your guess is as good as mine. They obviously like to give guys contracts after they already have contracts. And Aziz is one of their favorites. So your guess is as good as mine. I would assume a couple. I don't know. I don't know when they make tough decisions. And on defense, we know that they're going to lean that way, and they're going to reward their guys, especially their faves. Sorry, I couldn't provide more on that. Beta Aaron, shout out to Beta Aaron, not to be confused with the Alpha.
Hey, bro, Alpha Aaron here.
Says, hey, bro, give me free agent / rook. You'd what that we don't necessarily need. I'll start Alex Anzalone. Free agent that we don't necessarily need. And rookie. The rookie would be Zachariah Branch out of Georgia and also at USC. The biggest knock on him right now is that most of his production came via screen. I think there's some unrealized potential for him to run routes. I think he probably has a little more potential than he's been able to display. And I also think in this offense, if you have a screen specialist that has speed and can make plays, then I think that could be what the doctor ordered. So if you're asking me for like a position that we're not looking at, and it feels like there's a lot of depth at wide receiver, Zachariah Branch would be my guy, because I would love to have someone who's really, really good in the screen game, especially given the fact you never know when Nico Collins will and won't be on the field. As far as free agency that we don't necessarily need, so that eliminates any offensive linemen. I don't really have anything in free agency. The free agency, there's no one that sticks out that I'm just like, okay, they gotta make this one happen. But as far as the draft, there's plenty of guys that I think that you could think about when it comes to that. So what will the Texans do on the offensive line this week is the real question, because that's the glaring need right now for the Texans is the offensive line. Like, they don't even really have starters at either guard spot. Ed Ingram is a free agent, and Tytus Howard is gone. You can go around the rest of the roster, and you might not like who's starting, but they have starters. Like, we know who the starting QB is. We know who the starting running back is. We can narrow it down to 2 guys. We know Dalton Schultz is your starting tight end. We know who the starting receivers will be. We know who the starting corners will be. We know who the starting edge guys will be. We know who the starting linebackers will likely be. We know who the safeties are for now. There's 2 positions right now where they don't have starters, and that is at DT and at both guards. So DT, the spot claimed by Sheldon Rankins last year, admirably, that is one spot, and then both guards. And it seems like they're open to upgrading at center. Now, if you look at center, though, you look at this market, and this is what was displayed when we originally entered this stream. And shout out to everyone for joining me on Sunday, the day before free agency. Hope to see you guys at Spanky's this Friday to cuss and discuss. This is when it gets real fun. We do the live broadcast, and then there's banter before, after. Any diehard Texans fan, it's kind of like a community, and it is. People have come from Atlanta, people have come driven from San Antonio that day, long drives. We've had people from Indianapolis visiting, like California. It is a hell of a gathering, and none of them are disappointed by the whole environment and greatness that Spanky's has to offer. So we hope to see you there when it comes to that. We look at the free agent class when it comes to centers, and we're kind of getting a grasp of what the price is. So Connor McGovern, one of the kind of focal points of Buffalo's offensive line, for better or worse. Thought maybe he would hit the market, but he gets a 4-year, $52 million deal with $32 million guaranteed. So that's pretty expensive. That's below Linderbaum, because Linderbaum's going to get more than that. Not here, somewhere else. But that's a decent chunk. And then if you want to go perhaps a tier below that, you have Sean Ryan and the Packers on a 3-year, $33 million. So $11 million signing bonus. That's about what the price is. So how desperate are the Texans to upgrade at center? When I asked Caserio about Jake Andrews, he kind of threw out the possibility and the willingness to upgrade at the position. I think eventually that happens. The other thing I'll say that I think is something to keep an eye on is, as all these other teams sign centers, it kind of increases your opportunity in the draft. So if there is a center they really like in the draft, you look at these teams in front of you. Buffalo's obviously not going to draft a center on day 2. We know that. Green Bay's probably not going to do it now. We know that. And the list goes on and on when it comes to Linderbaum. So if they don't sign a center in free agency, I think that just would perhaps increase the possibility in the draft. And when you factor in that other teams will sign centers, it just kind of widens the opportunity to be able to get a center in the draft. But that's where they're going to be looking in free agency. If you're just talking about filling a roster and even increasing that opportunity to kind of swing for the fences for high upside guys in the draft, you need 2 starting guards and you need a tackle just to fill a roster. Like the analogy when it comes to a baseball manager is, fill the lineup card. Texans can't fill a lineup card right now when it comes to 2 guards. They're not going into this season with Jared Patterson expected to be a starting guard. Now, if he goes to training camp and Jared Patterson wins a starting guard spot, cool. But they're not just sitting there saying, okay, we're going to go into camp with Jared Patterson as a starting guard. And they're going to figure something out at Ingram. You can make a case that they have 3 new starters on the interior of the offensive line, which I don't think would hurt anyone's feelings, including Nick Caserio's, who was quite insistent that the offensive line was good last year, and you just need to watch the tape. And then DT, Tommy Togiai right now is the only guy that you have under contract. So that's where the Texans are heading into free agency. I'm sure that they're just completely cramming and trying to prioritize these positions. And your guess is as good as mine when it comes to that. But I will say they have, I trust this organization when it comes to DTs, offensive line. Nick Caserio's overall body of work, not great. But 1 year into the Cole Popovich thing, offensive line coach Cole Popovich, it's been pretty decent. So that's where they're at when it comes to that. Let's grade some of the moves that they made this week. We've talked about them. We've discussed them. We've passionately gone back and forth about some of these guys. And my recommendation when it comes to center breakdowns, my recommendation is Cody Stoots on SNL. His personal channel, he does a hell of a job of breaking down the offensive line. I like to stay in my lane. Now, I'm a very opinionated guy, but I like to stay in my lane. Once they sign offensive linemen, I'll dive into as much information as possible. But as far as going around the league or heading into the draft, I'm very fortunate to work with someone who enjoys that lane. And Cody Stoots, you look at his top 3 videos, they're all breaking down the offensive line. So he'll be able to help you in that area. We're going to grade the moves first, though. Let's go to the chat here on the Locker Room special Sunday edition before free agency begins.
Swarm.
Logan Taylor says, do you think they should consider Devon Achane? I don't think Achane's getting traded. I also think that won't happen because they did trade for David Montgomery. So I don't think Achane's going on the market. I think Miami got rid of everyone but him. And I think they will keep Achane. There was actually talk that he might get a new deal. So should they consider? The answer is no, because I don't think it's a possibility, but he is a very, 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 very good back. St. Louis Rebel, always the man. Shout out to the Reb. Shout out to Hodak's Chicken. Shout out to Ponticello's Pizza. Pour one out for Ponticello's Pizza. That was some good St. Louis thin crust pie. Stepdad always stocked the freezer in that. Back when it was hard to order grub, he always had that. That was definitely his drunk munchie, was that Ponticello's pie. St. Louis Rebel says it's clear the Texans want to be a run-first team. Kind of dangerous if you don't have a good offensive line and running backs, but we've seen that with the O'Brien, Caley type of thing. All Nick Caserio needs to do is build a solid offensive line that's good or at least above average at run blocking. Sounds easy. He makes it look very difficult. He says if he can do that, we definitely have a shot at reaching a Super Bowl. You have a Super Bowl caliber defense. You have pretty decent surroundings. And we'll see what happens with the quarterback, which really is what all this is going to go down to. Like, can CJ Stroud do his part? Now, you can nitpick the surroundings, but when you actually watch the game last year and you watch the way that stuff ended and you watch the way CJ Stroud has kind of appeared burned out at times and just not close to what we saw in 2023, he's got to be better too. But yes, a solid offensive line, a solid run game with this defense, it's one of the best recipes that you could possibly have. It's like sausage and pepperoni on pizza, which is beautiful. Although not everyone may agree with that. Some people like the pineapple on the pizza. Spanky has it all, by the way, next Friday. Kyle Nance says, I'd trade into the second a third time for Lou at center. I think if you're a Texans fan right now, like as we have draft mode paused right now. We have it paused until Friday. Then we go full draft mode. But if you're looking at 28, if there's a guard that you really love, just take him. You have picks. You have a pick 10 picks later. You're stocked in day 2. Don't go positional value at guard. Positional value is something that I roll my eyes at. A lot of people believe in it. A lot of people who know a hell of a lot about football believe in it. I just roll my eyes at it because what's one team's positional value might not be positional value to another team. Like the Texans, the value of a good guard for the Texans is probably higher than a team that might have a ton of needs. I don't believe in positional value at the end of the draft or at the end of the first round. There's been times where like centers have been taken. It's been like, why would you take a center? Some people were pissed off at Jahmyr Gibbs because of positional value. Fuck that. I think the Lions are happy with what they did. And the problem with positional value is it's almost like statistics. Like people, including myself, will often take statistics and when it backs up your argument, you present it. I'll just be honest. Everyone does it. I do it too. But like if a team misses on a player that's considered not good positional value, then it'll be pointed to as an example of why you don't take that guy at that point in the draft, ignoring probably all the good possibilities or good examples that there were before. It's always a very selective thing. Clyde Edwards-Helaire with the Chiefs is always the example I use this time of the year. If they'd taken Jonathan Taylor instead of Clyde Edwards-Helaire, they might have won every Super Bowl since. They just took the wrong guy. But that's pointed to as you don't take a running back there. You're telling me that if Love is there when the Chiefs are picking, they should just ignore him because of the Clyde Edwards-Helaire thing? It's crazy. And we never mention it when it comes to a receiver or an offensive tackle, just because those are high positional value. You just kind of ignore it. But if they really, really like a center and they think he's a starting center, I have no problem scooping him up at 28, whether it's a guard or a center. So I'm not into the whole positional value thing. I actually kind of roll my eyes at it. It kind of sometimes feels like something that someone said and then it just got repeated. It's like pass block win rate. Nobody can really define it. They can just quote it. Like all of a sudden PFF and other places. I'm not one of these guys who picks at PFF. I think it's a good resource. But all of a sudden someone said pass win rate and suddenly everyone started saying it. I don't really understand it there. Cullen says this, and I think this is fair on the chat. Shout out to Cullen.
Swarm.
He says, Caserio has done nothing to make you believe he's capable of signing or drafting real, genuine, starting caliber offensive linemen. He got lucky with Ursery. Now, his body of work sucks when it comes to the offensive line. Like, we can go through the Tytus Howard extension, which was a bad deal, regardless of how they made it work with the versatility. It was a bad deal. We can go through the Shaq Mason extension. Ended up being a really bad deal. Kenyon Green was the second first-round pick he made. It was by far the worst pick that he's ever made. We can agree with that. Juice Scruggs didn't even last the full duration of his rookie contract. Really wasn't even able to really get consistent run on one of the more scrutinized leagues, offensive lines in the league. He's gone. Blake Fisher, I mean, nobody has any hope that Blake Fisher is going to be a quality starting right tackle. His role last year was checking in, tackle eligible, and at times that was okay, and at other times it was really, really bad. So you have that example. So the body of work for Nick Caserio when it comes to offensive line, I don't think you should trust him. If I was going to say like the gray area on this, and a lot of you that watch and listen to this, is they've had 1 year with Cole Popovich as the offensive line coach, and that was the 1 year that they got the one time that they hit right in Ariante Ursery. So maybe there was a little luck there. There was also some weird stuff that Cole Popovich did, but there was improvement on the offensive line, and they actually have a draft pick that looks somewhat promising. So, yeah, the Caserio body of work, not great. Cole Popovich 1 year in, pretty good. If you want to fill that glass up half full instead of half empty. So that would be something that I would perhaps consider, or at the very least take into account. So let's get into the grading of these moves for the Texans. I've put 5 moves that they made last week that I'll grade. We'll touch on some of the small ones. I think there are 5 moves to look at. Number 1 is the Tytus Howard trade. This is an A. And just based on that action, the handling of Tytus Howard was bizarre. The contract extension, it was up and down with Tytus Howard. I think this year he kind of found himself, and he was very valuable when it came to the versatility. But my concern was, much like they did with Schultz and Hunter, that they were going to add years to the Tytus Howard experiment. I almost wanted to take the L, and they were able to get rid of him. And then when you look at what the Browns traded him, I think it's asinine that they even thought to do that. That was absolutely insane that they thought to do that. Now, maybe they're looking ahead and they think that eventually they get out of this Watson situation and they can spend heavy on offensive linemen, which is kind of what the Texans did with Howard when they extended him, when they had the young QB. But I think getting rid of Tytus Howard, getting out of the Tytus Howard business, finding someone who's really, really good at guard and perhaps really, really good at right tackle, which might be easier said than done. I think it was good. I'm glad that the Tytus Howard era is over. Salute to him for creating even more generational wealth. Salute to him for growing last year, which was something you could really see. But Yeah, A plus for getting rid of Tytus Howard. I am very, 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 very okay with that. David Montgomery trade, which they did later in the day. I'm gonna give this a C plus. Look, they wanted to stay out of this running back free agency market. They didn't value Kenneth Walker, the number he's going to get. And I think based on what they traded, they essentially said, we think David Montgomery is as good as any of these other free agent running backs. For better or worse, that's what I think they believed. Now, I don't think it's the craziest thing to think. Now, I know some people will stick their chest out for Algier. Some people will stick their chest out for ETN. Some people will stick their chest out for some of the other free agent running backs. But I don't think it's crazy. And on the other hand, I think you did give up quite a lot in order to get him. I think it was kind of rich, but I think it was also based on the running back market. Like if they would have done this in the running back market 2 years ago, which was one of the best running back markets that we've seen, and that was a time when the position was being just extremely, extremely devalued, then yeah, that would be a major problem. But in this one, I'll give it a C plus. We'll see how their running back evaluation is and what this looks like. They have created a committee, but they basically just wanted to stay at they wanted to stay out of the market. But I also think that they probably think that David Montgomery is either they look at it as like sharing the backfield with Woody Marks, which David Montgomery has shown that he's more than willing to do with Jahmyr Gibbs, who's not on the same level as Woody Marks, but you know what I mean. But he's probably going to have large usage, and he's already shown that he's not necessarily greedy, and he's a team guy, and he's a complete back who can block, who can help in the red zone, which is one of their biggest weaknesses in short yardage. I'm gonna give it a C plus for now, but I could easily see this being a B. And I understand Kenneth Walker was kind of what they perhaps what a lot of the fan base wanted to get, and D'Amico liked him, but they just didn't want to go down that path, and they didn't want to get in like some sort of bidding war. So I think this is fine. I think it's probably, if you asked them, this is who they liked in that second tier below Kenneth Walker. So I'll give it a C plus. I think it's fine. The Danielle Hunter extension, I'm gonna give this a C. Again, Danielle Hunter was going to be on the team no matter what, so he was going to be on the team. They got him at a bargain because they were proactive, and I just look at this as, okay, you cleared cap space, and we'll get to what clearing cap space means, because I always hear like the praise when something like this happens. Well, they cleared this much cap space. Let's get into what clearing cap space actually means after these grades, because I think it needs to be made clear. But Danielle was going to be on the team no matter what. You got him at a bargain, and then you basically took the same risk that you took when he signed the original bargain. The original extension, it was a risk when they did it. The original 1-year extension that got him under contract for the upcoming season, it was a risk. Guys in their 30s can get hurt. It can happen at any time. It can happen to guys in their 20s. And you already have Will Anderson, and you already have a good commitment to him. Now, he put together a good season, so it ended up looking great. But now you're taking the same risk, and you're taking the same risk at a higher price. Does Danielle Hunter get this type of money in the open market? Yes, but you took the risk. Like if Danielle Hunter tears his ACL last year, you're still paying him what you agreed to pay him. Now he didn't, and you're just wiping away you winning that risk, and you're starting over, which is fine. Worse things have happened than having Danielle Hunter on the roster the next 2 years. It just feels like when you get a bargain, take the bargain. And we'll get to this notion that, well, they cleared cap space. Yes, they did. Well, let's get into what that actually means in a sec. So I'd give this a C. The original one ended up looking like an A, but you are taking on a risk with the Danielle Hunter thing, and one that you didn't necessarily have to take because the first one kind of paid off. The Dalton Schultz thing, I'm going to give this a D minus. Again, Dalton Schultz. Some say this is rewarding a guy for a good performance. Let me just lay out what Dalton Schultz's contract was. The 2025 season, the previous season, was year 2 of a 3-year deal that he signed. Now, the first 2 years of that deal were fully guaranteed. First year was a disaster. Second year was really, really good last year. And the third year was not guaranteed. So rewarding Dalton Schultz was basically bringing him back this season. I think that's a hell of a reward. And if you look at what happened in Cleveland, they let David Njoku play out his final season. And along the way, they were able to find Harold Fannin, which made letting David Njoku go. It saved them money, and it made a lot of sense. 31-year-old Dalton Schultz making $12 million. I don't think that's happening on the open market. Nobody on the open market. The Daniil Hunter open market argument, which I think we can all agree with. Dalton Schultz is not going to start free agency tomorrow and get 2 years, $24 million guaranteed. That's just not going to happen. And you could, I got a message with like numbers of tight ends and what they make. He's in his 30s. That was not going to happen. How does Dalton Schultz's game age? Who knows? Now on the other side, because I think it's important to understand both sides, they haven't done a good job of even putting another tight end that is close to Dalton Schultz. The tight end depth is bad, which increases the importance of Dalton Schultz, and it also makes Dalton Schultz look even better. They haven't found anything close to their Harold Fannin. Their tight end depth, they have a couple of guys that are hanging around that haven't shown you anything, and they have large bodies of work of not doing so. Brevin Jordan, it's a long shot. The last 2 years were make or break, and they both ended in injury. It's kind of a long shot when it comes to Brevin Jordan. Easy to root for, but it's a long shot. Cade Stover cannot play right now. Cade Stover, if he improves, cool. But Cade Stover is a guy who is playing 40% when he's on the field. When he's suited up, he's playing 40% of the snaps on an offense that claims that they want to run 2 tight end sets. He's not a good blocker. He's not a good receiver. It's very up and down. And the lows, whenever there's a bad Cade Stover play, it damn near costs you a game, and it damn near gets someone killed every time. The highs aren't that high. They've got to improve the tight end position. Now, the good news for Dalton Schultz is they haven't. So they look at this and they say, okay, we got to clear cap space, which we're going to get to in a second. And we got to bring him back for 2 years, and we got to make that commitment. So good for him. I just think that they need to improve the tight end position and the depth that goes on. But he was already, again, Schultz and Hunter were already on the team. So the Dalton Schultz extension is really crazy. And I think once you see some of these tight ends on the market and what they're going to get, it's going to make you kind of get a better perspective of what this is and how it looks.
Swarm.
On Z chats. Kyle Nance says kind of forced into Proctor, who can be a guard or tackle. Yeah, they're going to need a versatile guy. Tytus Howard obviously had the biggest value that Tytus Howard had was elite versatility, and he allowed them to do a lot of things last year. Let's just be serious. Like, for all the talk about moving on from Tytus Howard, is that versatility worth what Cleveland gave it? No. Is it even worth what the original Texans extension was? The answer is no. But it was valuable last year, and they don't go as far as they did last year. And you do need these versatile offensive linemen that allow you when Cam Robinson gets hurt, when Trent Brown gets hurt, when Ariante Ursary is banged up, when one of your guards is out. They do need something like that. But yeah, they're going to have to figure something out when it comes to that. Justin C8191 says, anything that I don't see Blake Fisher and TE88 on the field. I do like the Stanford tight end that Cody said. So you don't want to see Blake Fisher. They don't either. They've kind of shown you that with their actions. And you don't want to see Harrison Bryant. They probably don't either. Although, let's be honest, TE86 isn't much better. And that's Cade Stover. right now. Like what Kate Stover put on the field and Jake Andrews, what they put on the field last year, you're not going to win with. You're not going to win at the level you want with. Two very important positions, a tight end who plays damn near half the snaps and a center. That level of play is going to hold you back, especially when you get to the highest level. It's going to hold you back. So both of those guys either need to significantly improve what they put out there last year, and I like both of them, or this, like, eventually it's going to bite you in the ass in a big way. You're talking about Roush from Stanford. He's good. Now he is a guy who kind of played in a pro style offense last year with Frank Reich. He's a massive human being. The athleticism, damn near freakish at the combine for someone his size. He likes blocking. He's smart. Stanford guy like Dalton Schultz. And I actually think he's an underrated receiver. I watched probably more Stanford than I want to admit last year. Sometimes late night you're chasing bets. But I like Roush out of Stanford. I like a lot of these tight ends. If they take two of these tight ends, I think that would be great when it comes to swinging for the fences. But yeah, Roush is a really good player, really good blocker. If you're just talking about the short-term complimenting Dalton Schultz, I think it's perfect because he likes blocking. Dalton Schultz willing, but not always able to block. And he's a massive human being at 260 and can also go out and run some passes and perhaps be the long-term answer to Schultz. So, yeah, I like Roush as well. I actually like Stowers out of Vanderbilt. That's kind of a hybrid type of situation. I think that'd help you in the red zone. If you got Stowers and Roush, I would be okay with that. In that instance, maybe you trade out of the first round. Although I could see Stowers being one of those guys that someone takes on the back end. My bad. 86. I'm in 87. That's on me. I said 86 Stover. 87 is what I should have said.
Race car!
Yeah, that's what I meant. That's on me. They're all alike, aren't they? But yes, that's what I meant. Getting back to the grades, one more, the Trent Brown signing. They might actually think that Trent Brown can be their right tackle for a full season, which is crazy. It's crazy. But last year, I didn't even think he'd be your right tackle for a half season. And I damn sure didn't think he'd have the impact that he did. Did not lose a game with Trent Brown in the lineup. The run blocking was better. He did a good job. To quote him, mass kicks ass. That's what Trent Brown always says. Last year, his contract was worth up to $3 million. This year, it's worth up to $7 million. If you get twice as much of what you got last year, you can't find steals like that. I'm not going to underestimate the athleticism, the healing powers of Big Trent. I do think you definitely need a better insurance policy and perhaps a long-term option there at right tackle so that you avoid putting Blake Fisher on the field and you actually find someone that you do believe can be a starting right tackle. But so far, so good for Trent Brown. We'll see what happens. When I initially saw the signing, I was like, okay, good for him. Even if he's a swing tackle, that's not crazy money, up to $7 million. But I kind of thought, well, are they going to really think that do they really think he's going to be a starting right tackle for the entire duration of the season? Initially, I was kind of dismissive and I was like, surely not. And then I kind of thought about it and I'm like, well, maybe they do. And they're paying him twice as much. I underestimated him half as much last year. We'll see what happens. I do think Trent Brown, because he's over 400 pounds, you kind of assume that he doesn't really take care of himself and the body and all that. Trent Brown's one of those guys where you look at him 1 week and it's like, man, this dude's overweight. And then you look at him 2 weeks later and it's like, damn, this guy's been working out. He's in shape. I think he does a good job of kind of balancing the crash. Although he told Cody Stoots that he didn't eat that much. I don't believe Big Trent on that. But shout out to Trent Brown and Brown Ranch. Big fan of Trent. Now, starting Trent at right tackle, definitely risky. Definitely need an insurance policy on that. But Yeah, there you go. So those are the big 5 moves. The Trent Brown, if I had to give it a grade, solid B, regardless of what happens, regardless of how risky they want to be. I think having him on the roster, I think it's a solid B, especially when it's an up to incentive. If he makes $7 million, that means he kicked ass. That means he absolutely kicked ass. And if he plays half the games, I'm sure the money will be around half of that. I don't have like the full layout. Texans cap is the guy for that when it comes to cap space, which we'll get to in a sec. But yeah, Trent Brown being on the roster, I'll give that a solid B. I think that's fine. Bringing back EJ Speed was interesting. So it's essentially a 1-year deal. Now it's 2. Like if he plays on year 2, you're getting him at pretty decent bargain. I don't know if they like bargains. I think sometimes they like to rip up bargains and not make them bargains, which is kind of their way of doing business. But EJ Speed, depth linebacker. Did I think they desperately needed to do this? No, but maybe they just don't want to F with linebacker depth. Maybe they swing for the fences. I think if the opportunity perhaps presents itself in the draft, like if there's an EJ Allen or something like that at 38 or whatever, I think D'Amico is going to be willing to bring in a young linebacker to work with, kind of along the same mold as what they've done with Henry To'oTo'o. But they basically just said, okay, we usually play 2 linebackers. EJ Speed did a good job of filling in last year. Also did a really good job on special teams. So we'll bring him back. I think around $7 million guaranteed. That's fine. That's a C. Nothing crazy. It's a C. They don't really have to mess with the free agent RB or LB, I should say. But they'll be open to that for sure. I love this time of the year. I love free agency. I actually like the bargain shopping. I'm always kind of amused by some of the deals that these guys get. Like Alec Pierce is going to get paid tomorrow. And it might be the Titans. He might remain in the division. Might be Washington, although they're saying Brandon Ayuk might be that guy. But all these guys are going to get paid. And it's usually like the bargains that can kind of put you over the top. Like one of the examples I'll use is Philadelphia, like Mekhi Becton 2 years ago. He sucked before. He sucked after. But they found him, and he was a big part of their Super Bowl team. Like, you find guys like that, that's really what the difference is, especially when you have good rosters. And the Texans have a good roster. Like, for all the bitching and complaining and stuff that goes on here and anywhere else, anyone who covers the team objectively, they do have a good roster. But moves like that are what I like. That's why when I see, like a Dalton Schultz or EJ Speed, I'm just kind of like, man, I wish they could – find like the Tommy Togi eyes. Like that's impressive. That's impressive. Now, some moves get praised because they quote cleared cap space. And you have to be, I think the term that the nerds use, Texans cap can help me, is cap compliant. You have to be cap compliant. You have to have this much space or whatever. But sometimes whenever someone sees that they cleared cap space, it's almost as if, well, the debt went away. More times than not, that's not the case. Like a restructure, an extension, usually you're committing more money and you're just pushing it back. I compare this, like I've had friends in the past where when you're in college or when you're early out of college, like you'll go to Las Vegas. And Las Vegas is not cheap, especially if you're planning to have fun and gamble at that time. Although I can find you cheap Vegas trips for sure. I'm an expert on that. Northeast corner of the Strip. I got you covered in some of the holes in the wall. But I digress. My point is, a lot of times there's that guy that well, this guy has a crap ton of debt. He probably shouldn't go on this trip. He's barely able to pay his bills. But then suddenly he shows up to Las Vegas and he has $1,500, $2,000 to basically throw around because he either irresponsibly took out a loan, he borrowed some money, or he's spending money that he should not, just for a short satisfaction, just for like a good Las Vegas weekend. That's what he's doing. That's essentially more times than not what clearing cap space means. Now, if you trade somebody and that whole contract goes away, like what happened with the Raiders with Max Crosby, to where now they have $150 million in cap space, whatever the hell that is. That's one thing. But when you give an extension or you restructure a contract, essentially you're just doing it so that you can spend money for short-term satisfaction like the upcoming year. Now, some teams, the teams that are really, really good, that have really, really good rosters, they're able to kind of just keep pushing it back, pushing it back, pushing it back, pushing it back, pushing it back. Still there, though. Like the Philadelphia Eagles. They're kind of an example of a team that is able to do that. But whenever you clear cap space, it's eventually going to catch up to you. Eventually. Now, hopefully you're able to find rookies on rookie contracts and young players and stuff, but it catches up. So when you see some of these moves and you see, well, they restructured this and they did this and they cleared cap space. I love this move because it clears cap space. Okay. Maybe you have an awesome weekend in Vegas. Maybe you have an awesome 2026. Maybe you reach the ultimate prize and you go places that you've never been as a franchise. That would be great. But if you don't, eventually that debt's still there. The percentage is still there when you take out that loan or when you borrow money. And that's essentially what happens when you clear cap space. So a lot of times it's like, well, we cleared cap space. Yes, you did. But yeah, it eventually can catch you. And for most teams, eventually it does. That's kind of what we're seeing with the Chiefs now, where, and props to them, they've been able to develop players and get picks for them. But the Chiefs every year are having to give up important players on their roster, and they're trying to get younger. Now, you develop an all-pro cornerback and you get first-round pick and more, good for you. But are the Texans going to be able to do that? When do they start making moves like that? That's something to keep an eye on. But you clean cap space, you clear cap space, it usually will come back to you in some cases. Not always the case, but often. So the Hunter and Schultz extensions, they're to be determined, but you save money in the short term. Long term, you got some money committed to those guys when they were going to be on the roster no matter what. So you can't the debate over Dalton Schultz and Danielle Hunter, I think I'm trying to emphasize this. It becomes almost as if you're arguing about their value for the 2026 season, but it's really about 2027 and committing to guys in their 30s. Now, obviously, Hunter's on a different level than Schultz, but they were going to be on the roster no matter what. You got to clear space. It happens, but it's not like it just goes away. It's not a forgiveness loan. Like someone didn't give Nick Caserio $20 million because of that. Speaking of the tight end position, another thing that I'm very much emphasizing when it comes to the tight end position is Dalton Schultz. And I said this morning. This was my first thought as I woke up that I tweeted out on X. And most of the things I say are right here. I save, me and Cody, we typically save our opinions. We'll throw some out every once in a while on X, but our opinions are right here on YouTube. This is what pays the bills. This is long form. This isn't some of the bullshit groupthink that comes with X. Now, every once in a while, I'll dive in and go back and forth. But as far as the overall analysis, I usually save it here. But today on X, I said this, and it's really been one of my main points of the offseason. Going back to Dalton Schultz, we can go back and forth. Like you can have the for and you can have the against Dalton Schultz side when it comes to the 2027 season and extensions and stuff like that. We had already accepted that he was going to be on the team this year. But regardless of where you sit on the Dalton Schultz, and I feel like it's pretty decently split in this community and in the SNL community, regardless of how you feel about Dalton Schultz, there's a couple of things that are very, very true. And there's something that is very, very clear that they must do this offseason, that the good news is they have an opportunity to do. We can argue about Dalton Schultz. We can argue about what he can do. We can argue about what he can't do. We can argue about what he will be or won't be in 2026, 2027. But we can all agree at the end of the day, he's a useful player. The guys behind him are not. They are not. No other tight end on this roster is what you would consider a useful player. that you can actually depend on at a position where they say they want to put multiple guys on the field. And if the tight end depth behind Schultz isn't improved, they're screwed. They're screwed. And sometimes stuff happens. Draft picks don't work out. Free agency doesn't work out. Injuries don't go your way. But if it's because of a lack of effort, this is a lost cause. It doesn't matter what else they do, because we don't know if Dalton Schultz is going to be healthy. He was healthy last season. He's getting older. Now, he got hurt the last play of the season, and it was also very obvious he was hurt throughout the season. We talk about the Woody Marks clues of limping off every game. Dalton Schultz worked his ass off physically to be on the field every play last season. A lot of that maybe had to do with the fact that he was playing for a new contract. You give him 2 years, he's not playing for a new contract. The last time he wasn't playing for a new contract was one of the worst years and most frustrating years and polarizing years that we've seen at the tight end position with Dalton Schultz. That was the last time that we saw that. But regardless, we can agree that he's a quality player. They've got to improve 2 down. And they've got to add tight ends. Tight ends. Like the lingering that has happened on this team when it comes to offense, you've got to get rid of that. You've got to get rid of that, especially on the back end of the depth chart. Dameon Pierce. It's crazy how once Dameon Pierce gets released, Jawar Jordan finally gets a chance and he rushes for 100 yards in a game. Brevin Jordan's been here for a half decade. We've been waiting for that breakout season for a large chunk of that half decade. The injuries don't just completely pause it. It kind of lowers like the expectation that comes with that. There's teams all over the NFL right now running 2 tight end sets. The Texans claim they want to. With what Cade Stover has been, you're not going to do that effectively. There's a decent chance that you can find a tight end in the 5th, 6th, maybe even 7th round that can do what Cade Stover did last year, which was not much. Now, if Cade Stover comes back and he improves and there's a big jump from year 2 to year 3, cool. Hopefully he's like a TE3, assuming that they actually address this. But the Dalton Schultz argument is fine. They have to improve the tight end position, or else they're in trouble. They're in trouble. It better be. It better be a proactive effort to improve the tight end depth, or else this thing's toast. And it probably shouldn't be too expensive either. If you look at the opportunity in this draft, you have to do it. Last year, I get it. Other things, you maybe wanted to see what Cade Stover looked like in year 2. I thought Cade Stover was going to come back just completely jacked. He looked the same. He looked the same. What that was, you cannot win with. You cannot win with, and it handcuffs you on offense. Claiming that you want to run 2 tight end sets and just crossing your fingers and hoping that Brevin Jordan and Cade Stover can fill out your tight end room, which, say what you want about Dalton Schultz, either way you want. I think we can all agree blocking is not necessarily his thing. And he was roughed up last year and had to carry quite a heavy load. The other thing is Cade Stover's been hurt the last 2 years. If they don't draft a tight end or bring in a tight end, they don't know what they're doing. I'm sorry, they don't know what they're doing. Like, as crazy as it sounds about Trent Brown crossing your fingers and hoping he's right tackle, it's more outlandish to hope that Cade Stover is a quality tight end too, and Brevin Jordan for that matter. If either of those guys play their way into being a T3 or T4 or having to make the team, awesome. But you can't have an offensive coordinator that claims that he likes tight ends, an offense that claims that it wants to use multiple tight ends, and roll this tight end room back out there. We can do whatever, we can say whatever we want about Dalton Schultz, whatever. But if they don't improve this tight end room, It's a wrap. It's a wrap. It's not good. It's not good. Two things I think the Texans have going for them heading into this process. The next phase of the offseason, free agency, which starts tomorrow, and then the draft. I'll get to in a sec. But first, reminder, Friday, celebrate free agency. There's going to be some hot takes. The hottest of hottest takes. There's going to be draft takes that are much more clear. There's going to be a roster laid out. You need 2 starting guards and a starting defensive tackle. We'll put a bow on the state of the roster at the end of this thing. But Spanky's Friday. See you there. It's going to be fun. Myself, Cody Stoots, Sharpstown. Always a good time. Always a good time. On Z chat.
Swarm.
Kyle Dance says, you effing hate Stover, huh? He shit in your cereal. No, I mean, I like Cade Stover. Actually, I've talked to Cade Stover. I enjoy Cade Stover. But that doesn't stop me from saying what I see. He's not a good football player on this team. Maybe he turns into one. I think he would tell you that he hasn't played that great either. So it's not about hate, love, anything like that. They want to run 2 tight end sets. The guy doesn't have a clear strength. He can't stay healthy. He was a day 3 pick to begin with, and there's a lot of opportunity to improve the position. It's not about hate or love. If I was someone who was just trying to be friends with these guys, I would sit here and defend Cade Stover. He hasn't been good. I would defend Jake Andrews' play. He hasn't been good. They both have to be better. The opportunity to improve the tight end position is there, and it's also very important. I hate the way that Cade Stover has played. And I also kind of hate the way that there's not enough attention paid to that. I think there should be more attention on that, more of an emphasis. We talk about CJ, deservedly so. We talk about the offensive line, deservedly so. We talk about a lot of things, but we don't really mention how poor the tight end depth is. And there's also been a clear pattern recently of offensive players lingering around when they basically tell you who they are in year 2. Dameon Pierce just left this franchise. He was here 4 years. Devin Singletary was better than him significantly. Joe Mixon was better than him significantly. Dare Ogunbowale, for all the criticism, might actually be better than Dameon Pierce. Not significantly, but he might actually be. Don't repeat that, especially on a side of the ball that has to be better. It's that simple. And it often gets ignored. It's that simple. And it's also kind of a compliment to the guy that we're talking about. Like, I'm sitting here saying, damn, you committed 2 extra years to Dalton Schultz. Another guy I like. You committed 2 years and you committed 12 more million to Dalton Schultz. Okay. He could use somebody to compliment him at that position. I mean, wouldn't it be nice to be able to ask Dalton Schultz, hey, just go run a route, and the tight end 2, he's actually going to block. He's going to hold it down for you. Oh, you're pushing to play. I see why you're pushing to play, because there's no depth behind you. The guy who's really that hasn't played that good, he's hurt again. So Dalton, it would probably be nice for you to be able to get a week off, but we need you to really, really press. Don't practice Monday through Wednesday, not even Thursday. Do whatever you got to do, and then come out on the field Friday and play Sunday. That's what he did all year. You don't think that eventually caught up to him? You don't think that eventually caught up to him? Dalton Schultz was hurt in the playoff game, man. That really made a big difference. Yeah, it did. Do you think maybe the fact that every single week he had to push to be on the field because he knew that if he wasn't out there, they'd have been screwed? You don't think that eventually caught up to him? You don't think that catches up to your body? They need somebody. They need more tight end help, period. You see it with Dalton Schultz. We go to practice every day. Dude's on the side field. It's resting him, all that. He's resting. He's resting. He's resting. And then all of a sudden he goes out there and he gets hurt. It's not some sort of fluke. It eventually catches up. We got to figure it out. But yeah, I don't hate Cade Stover. Cade Stover's done a good job. Cade Stover's probably made enough money on this rookie deal for his entire life. He loves being on the farm, all that. He's not good right now. He would tell you that. He's not going to sit here and tell you that he's played good the last 2 years. You got to improve. Like if Cade Stover's battling to be on the roster, cool. If you're just handing him the tight end 2 spot, you're unserious. You're not serious. Period.
Swarm.
Rich Boy J says, "What player on the team do you not like personally?" I don't know I don't really like try to like the guys personally. If I get to know them, I get to know them. But I don't put enough stock in what they do to like not like them personally. I thought that CJ Gardner-Johnson was a little bit annoying. I thought Darrell Taylor was a little bit annoying. But I didn't not like personally. I don't know. Like not like, nah, not really. Trying to do that. When you go in the locker room, it's like I'm trying to get like based on what we're talking about. I'm trying to get information out to the people, and then I'm trying to get the hell out of there. If something comes up, something comes up. They didn't invite. I think a lot of media thinks like they invited you in there. They didn't invite you in there. It's NFL rules. They didn't like invite me to their house to have a party. Hey, what do you think about this? All right, see you, man. That's it. Has there ever been a player that I didn't like personally? I mean, I didn't like Jack Easterby, but I mean that's we've gone through that. I didn't like him. I thought he was a bad person. As POS, person of service. A lot of history there, though. Dominic says, "Do you think there's a world where we could get Stowers?" Yeah, I think there's a world. I don't know when Stowers goes. Like, is Stowers one of those guys? So you want to go O-line and tight end? If you get Stowers, like Stowers Roush would be my dream duo. I don't know if that's going to happen. I think that would have to happen before the end of day 2. I think Roush might actually go. I could see him going back into the second round. I could see someone falling in love with him, which some people might think is rich. Who knows? He's definitely going third, I think, at this point when it comes to tight ends. I think he's clear top 5, and he's super blocker. But I like Stowers. I think he helps your red zone. I think he's a freak. I think he allows you to do that BS. I think he would basically I think he would basically be able to do that. Rich Boy following up says, "I only asked that because when Nance called you out about Stover, you mentioned you like Stover as a person." Well, I mean, that's because he said I hate him. He said I hate. Like, I don't. He said he crapped in my cereal. That was why I said that I actually think he's always been cool and all that. Like, yeah, that was the only reason I brought that up, Rich Boy. I'm not like sitting here saying, that, but that's why I brought that. James with just a crazy thought here. Would you rather Dare be our starting running back or Cade Stover be our starting tight end? Like for a whole season or just like for one game? Because I don't think it's realistic to say for like a whole season. You're saying for like let's say week 15 or something? Like for a whole season? I don't think you can say whole season because if it's whole season, then you have to go Dare. If it's whole season, you have to go Dare because Cade Stover hasn't been able to last a whole season. So it's unrealistic. Like you're going to have to use the backup. So, yeah, I think the Dare thing, maybe they've grown out of that. But, yeah, I think you would have to say Dare. He's probably better. Like for how polarizing it is, he's probably better at what he does than what Cade has done so far. So, yeah, that's That's where I would bet on that. Space Age says, you and I have talked about the RBT position till we're blue in the face. Yeah, and David Montgomery could end up being the second best back in this market. It's not crazy. Like, I know ETN. I don't know if ETN fits here. With the way that they run the ball. Tyler Algier, some people like. But yeah, crazier things have happened than David Montgomery being the second best guy in this class. And when you talk about complimenting him with Woody Marks, it's not the craziest thing. So they did address the running back position. Whether or not you think they used the assets right, it wasn't cheap. Like, it's not like they got a bargain with David Montgomery. The money's probably going to be similar to what the other guys get, and you gave up some draft picks. And I think fourth round picks are valuable for the Texans because they use them to trade up on day 2, which they're really, really good at. And you can also find some decent players in round 4. See Dameon Pierce for 1 year. He was your leading rusher. And see Woody Marks last year at the RB position. So, yeah, the TE thing, though, I think that's just something that's not really a thing. James says that Algier is a younger and probably better version of Montgomery. Yeah, the only thing I would say about that is I don't disagree with you. I also think he kind of helps you in the red zone like Montgomery can. I don't know if he's like as good of like a complete back when it comes to receiving, and they put a lot of value in pass pro, which I think Montgomery is better at. And he's also probably at the point where I don't know that he wants to be in a committee. I think Montgomery has shown that he's willing to be in a committee, and he's really, really able to do it. And it's also kind of a situation where I don't think that David Montgomery looks at Woody Marks and says, yeah, he's going to get the larger chunk of the pie for sure. You know, it's not like having Jahmyr Gibbs. He's also at the point in his career where I don't think he's necessarily going to consistently be the workhorse back. So I think it kind of just fits what they want when it comes to sharing with Woody Marks and some of the stuff that they also want. So we'll see how Algier does look. But that was a name that kind of grew on me once it became a little bit more clear. But they like Montgomery for better or worse. Kyle says, I like Montgomery, TD machine. Yeah, he's definitely a thief in fantasy. That's for damn sure. But yeah, I think Montgomery does start for sure. So the most positive things moving forward as we approach this process of free agency, which begins tomorrow, and the week will be capped off at Spanky's on Friday. Once again, Spanky Sharpstown. Prizes, all that. We got you covered. The most positive thing is Pop Small BOW, which is body of work. You need offensive line help. The small body of work of Cole Popovich when it comes to drafting guys, kicking the tires on guys here and there. It does have a couple of sources of frustration, but in the big scheme of things, it did display improvement, and it did display the one example of actually hitting in the draft on an offensive lineman. So that's positive. How much does it matter? Because it is a small body of work. Don't know. But that's something you can look at if you want to counter the clear Nick Caserio miss and weakness on offensive linemen. The next thing that I think is good, and I think a lot of nerds appreciate this, and I consider myself a nerd, is the recent day 2 history. Texans have a lot of day 2 picks, and they're right there on the edge of day 2. They actually haven't made a first-round pick since Will Anderson. That's one of my favorite little nugs. And when it comes to swinging for the fences like getting high upside guys. When you have a roster filled and you don't have like massive needs. And again, as far as filling the lineup card, the baseball analogy, you need 2 starting guards, you need a starting DT. And then there's opportunity to upgrade, and there's potential to perhaps swing for the fences at places that you don't necessarily need guys. But their day 2 history recently has been fantastic. And that's a big opportunity to swing for the fences. But at the end of the day, the hope to get to the top level, it's on the QB. And my question is, how does that make you feel? How does that make you feel? The quarterback. Kind of feel like we've taken a vacation from CJ Stroud talk. You're just trying to put the best team possible out there. Now, you put a good enough team last year, along with the stuff that went your way, to go further than you did. The quarterback held you back. Now, him taking that next step, if CJ Stroud looks like he did in 2023, and the spirit's there, and CJ Stroud's playing good ball, that changes everything. It changes everything, because the quarterback can be the lipstick on a pig of some of the worst organizations that we've ever seen. But I don't know how that makes people feel that the overall significant hope is going to be on the QB. But as we go into free agency tomorrow, the need is clear. It's offensive line. Offensive line, interior offensive line, to be specific. Now, center might be expensive, but interior offensive line and some depth and whatever you're going to do in that ranking spot. Who are you going to have on paper heading into the draft as your starting DT? Those are the 2 areas right there at the top of the depth chart that you need to look at when it comes to free agency. And then you can perhaps just fill in some holes. And if you look at the state of the Texans depth chart at the tippity top of each position, again, you need interior offensive line and D-line help big time. Defensive tackle. You need that big time. That is like a pressing need. It's not the most expensive. You're not getting Tyler Linderbaum. That is the most significant need that you have. Most significant thing you need. Now, the 2 deep, if you're looking at depth when it comes to the 2 deep, and this is perhaps getting ahead to the draft, you're set at quarterback, running back, wide receiver, and cornerback, at least 1 through 3. They want to see what Jalen Smith can do. They brought him in to be CB3 last year. He got hurt. This year, they're hoping he's going to do that. So you're not really in those markets. You're not in those markets in free agency. You're not in those markets in the draft. QB, running back, wide receiver, cornerback. Not in those markets. Anything else you're open to, especially when it comes to the upgrade ops, which is tight end 2 down. I won't go on that rant again for now. Edge, you need some depth behind Will Anderson and Daniil Hunter, and it wouldn't hurt to get younger there. Dylan Horton's a fine special teams guy. I don't know if Dylan Horton is like a long-term depth guy. So maybe that's something they're open to in the draft. And then you look at Derek Barnett. Derek Barnett is a guy that he's been Old Faithful for a while, but he is getting a little bit older. And then safety, they brought in MJ Stewart. We know that they're kind of aggressive at that other safety spot. So if that presents itself in the draft specifically on day 2, I could see them swinging for the fences there. And then offensive tackle, Trent Brown. Okay, are you really going to live that life and take that risk? But that's really the state of the roster. That's what they need. And that is that is kind of where we're at right now when it comes to the Texans heading into free agency tomorrow. Genuinely hope you join us at Spanky's. The gatherings have been fun. They're always good. James is always yapping a little bit too much, but it is what it is. I'm just kidding. It's actually pretty funny. But appreciate y'all for rolling through. Always remember when it comes to this Texan stuff, we're all in it together. It's been an awesome offseason so far. It's been active with a lot of dialogue back and forth. And it's just going to increase tomorrow. The king of the offseason, Cody Stoots, I'm sure he'll be live on his channel. SNL will be at 4:00, probably a little bit longer. And then we will have the locker room, of course, 10:30 with a different vibe, kind of the table setting. Appreciate y'all for rolling through. See you at Spanky's on Friday. See you right here tomorrow and throughout the week. Always remember, when it comes to this Texan stuff, we're all in it together. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe.
Localize every time, can't stop, won't stop. Yeah, we top 2 and we not too. Plugged in daily digital on YouTube. We got taste for days, opinions to give, we got takeaways. If it's up, then it's up, we number 1. You don't need to try your luck. Locker room.